Hello, hello. It is I, your host Trozz, and with me on the line, Stoic Rooster.
That's
Welcome
me.
back.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back to the casting desk. Thanks for jumping in to help cast.
No problem. Always funny to be here.
Yeah, it's not going to be a very long day because if we take a peek at the bracket, the tournament is almost wrapped up in that we only have a couple active games going at a time until we can decide who's going to reach the ability to face the top upper bracket in the finals. And there's going to be quite a few rounds to decide that. Because we have 6 players in the lower bracket, and either yourself or Left Hook are going to be sent there once you guys play out your game.
Yeah, and we haven't played our game. We have quite some time, as I understood, to duke it out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the winner of basically once the lower bracket is down to 2 other people, then you're going to be facing them. And then winner of that goes right on. Well, assuming that you do take the dive, but hey, maybe you'll just cruise all the way to upper bracket finals. That could be pretty nice.
That would be the dream.
And myself, I'm fighting for my life, and I will be facing Skitter today. Anyone who loses this will be eliminated, and we've also got the other matchup of The Face, also known as Indubitablement, facing against Copiate. So that's going to be a Starhorn Lilith versus Sif Cassie, and then it's going to be a Wizard Brome versus Rag or Kalios. And let's start with my games, just because I like to take the bracket from the top down.
Sure.
With that said, Stoic Rooster, are you ready to jump into game number 1 of round number 4 of Tournament 4?
I sure am.
Excellent. Let's go into Trozz, myself, versus Skitter in 3, 2, 1. Paste. Okay. So I like opening up with Starhorn just because it's kind of funny, and style beats victory, so I gotta do a little bit of showmanship possibly with this very flashy 7 mana card, which you can see is in my opening hand. And I am facing a pretty standard creep deck.
I guess Reef Beast is a bit unusual to see in Creep.
Yeah. It's
But
quite
it
nice
looks to
for
be
the
pretty
one-sided
standard.
card draw, but I don't know, you don't see it a whole lot. It's actually going to make for a really good turn 1 play, because Skitter could drop the Ooze and the Rift Beast. And my logic for packing Rift Beasts is I want to have as full a hand as possible for when I cast Apex.
I guess. I mean, the risk is you wind up
Casting those
overdrawn.
instead. Yeah. Or if you have 6 cards in your action bar already.
But you go for the objectively better play of Golden Metal or this.
I did replace a Lava Slasher actually pre-Mulligan, and now I replaced and found this Metallurgist, and I'm kind of kicking myself for it because turn 2 Lava Slasher is such a good play.
Interesting inclusion of Pandora, I think. Usually the 7 drop of choice in these decks tend to be Silithar Elder.
Yeah, because Silithar Elder actually does the same thing that Pandora does, in that I mostly have it included here so it generates minions every turn, but Silithar Elder would multiply every turn. So that's a consideration for how I could have built the deck instead. I'm deciding against taking the Mana Tile because I know the Ooze can be baited into a nice trade here with the Spelljammer, so this seems pretty nice.
Yeah, I think that's a fine play considering you want the Ooze to suicide because then you get the up, because you want Jammer to die on your turn or
Yeah.
the enemy's turn so they don't get the card draw.
Mm-hmm.
So you're giving Skitter the option here of making the trade, which means he's not drawing a card himself.
Skitter with 2 dead cards in his hand in the form of the Ghost Azalea and the Punch, but is pretty happy to drop an Abyssal Noble. Because I don't have the hard removal to deal with that.
No, you decide to keep Manemivore here.
Yeah, I kind of like it with the Apex. If I get one, I like to find the other. Especially because I've got the Pandora, which is another piece of that combo.
Yeah, there's not a really strong play for you here. I guess
Yeah, because
refuting could be an option, but it really won't.
maybe taking 2 steps up with my general and 2 steps left with a metallurgist to protect it would have been good.
I think what you could do here is you could stand on the tile and then you can move away the metallurgist or body block it so he can't trade into it.
Yeah,
And then you're forcing him to have creep generation.
yeah, because this noble would love to spend next turn just summoning some kind of nasty demon.
But
So I
guess
run
he
past
could
the
trade in
spikes.
his- But I guess he can trade in his Rift Beast to you either way and then ping it himself. But this is also a good play.
Yeah, I end up burning my only EMP, but that's fine. It's not a really important card in the matchup.
Of course, this will give Skitter access to a demon, and he gets a
Yeah.
Moonrider.
So because I didn't protect the metallurgist, this Moonrider shows up. Fortunately, the Abyssal Scar was used to get it, so he doesn't immediately get a 4/4.
And he also gets the worst of the demons, the Moonrider being a rather weak card.
Yeah, if you can't proc it immediately, it's pretty sad compared to the other ones. Or if you can keep it around, then it gets really good. But I have a really good removal spell in my hand, the Rebuke. And although it only takes out a single minion, it's probably still a fine play.
I think you have to do it, right?
Yeah, because otherwise it's a 4/4 every turn.
We didn't cover the lists. Did you check if Skitter ran Cryptographer before you made this play?
Cartographer? I didn't.
Cryptographer.
Yeah, I didn't check for cryptographers. But hey, I've got the deck lists right here. Let's look it up. Skitter. So fortunately for me, Skitter isn't running any cryptographers. So it's going to be strictly limited to the 1 BBS per turn, so this Moonrider cannot pop off. And here's another Moonrider.
Yeah, but it's giving you the evolutionary apex, which is curious.
Yeah, because now I have the extra mana that I need. Although the Rift Beast spoils the mana tiles, so
Oh, he didn't.
Yeah.
He body blocked.
that's a pretty good play. Because I was definitely going to slam down the hand.
Yeah, but you can. You can't clear it, unfortunately. But
Probably going to want to replace my 2-drop or 1-drop to find something ideally very high
I think
casting
you hold on
cost.
to Blood Tier here because you can Blood Tier his.
Yeah.
Medicinal.
Yeah, that actually would be the play for sure.
So I think you either drop the Pandora or the Rift Beast here.
Well, I've
Because
only got the
worst
7
case
mana,
scenario-
so...
Worst case scenario, you can play Rift Beast, but you got a Lava Slash, which is better.
Yeah, I decided to clear out everything.
Oh yeah, that's fine too.
Because it leaves me a Mecanter on the field. Pretty nice.
And you're all set up for next turn. And you get a Grove Lion too, and Skitter now deciding to drop his Abyssal Novel. Interesting of him to make that particular play, considering he ought to know that you played Apex. So maybe he should have kept the double in hand, just in case it was
Yeah.
forced out by Apex.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe playing like a Spelljammer would have been better. Or even just waiting it to be cast out, because I'm definitely casting it. Here we go. And then Memovore triggers several times, and then once more with the Pandora Dog. So Skitter's deck is at 11, and it's ticking down by 4 per turn at least.
Yeah, and you can see here you got the Grandmaster in your hand, which you can't play this turn. But he is very wise in punishing the biggest threat here, which would be
Yeah,
the Nemor, because he would easily have run out of cards eventually.
especially considering there's a Spelljammer on the field, which is kind of working against him at this point.
So one strategy could be to start milling him out. Maybe you should have BBS before replacing to give you more options. But
yeah, for sure.
it's not always easy when you're in a tournament to make all the good decisions. You tend to get fatigue, and then you kind of make a play, and then you forget about replacing yourself.
Yeah, and then it's like you immediately after you hit the end turn button, it's like, oh no, I let my Vindicator die, or I didn't spend my mana, or I had like a free play. Speaking of free play, charging in here to take out this 6/6 seems pretty good. One of the Lava Slashes at least barely lives, and I've got a Flying Dog to scratch this Fugitive in the back in case I get a Rebuke. This Fugitive is pretty nice for Skitter, though. He's able to get as many copies of any spell that he's got.
Yeah, he has two really strong crunches here. He's got lunch, pardon me. Got 4 damage he can deal, so he now takes out the problem cards, which would be the Pandora. I'm not sure if they can spawn the ranged one. Maybe there is the one ranged.
Vorpal Reaver shows up. This one is much nicer than a Moonrider that doesn't proc.
So now you have an interesting choice here, because you do have access to Rebuke, which you can clean board with in conjunction with here. But it will be at the expense of all of your stuff, mostly.
The other option is I could drop a Memovore, drop a Blood Tear, and just try to go for the last bit of... Yeah, that's what I did. Just trying to delete his future draws in case he draws anything good that he can duplicate with the Fugitive, although if I just cleared the board, I probably would have been fine too. Possibly better, because now we get a random demon to deal with.
Yeah, he's got infinite punishes though, so he's able to... at least remove of the immediately striking cards.
Yeah. It's nicer that that's getting targeted instead of the Pandora.
He's now down to 2 cards. Now his deck is drained.
Completely gone. The double drain from the Spelljammer.
Replaced though. I'm not sure how that worked.
Yeah, replace for nothing. The hand is actually the same. This is it. These 6 cards.
So he can duplicate 1 card per turn. But it's quite fascinating to see the Menemivore trial go off.
Yeah, this is kind of a funny win condition where I just bring my opponent to fatigue within the first couple turns.
You are familiar with how Menemivore used to work, right? Before they... Well, when it was originally launched.
What was it like?
So every card that you drew, or every card that you milled, was considered drawn. So it would work with
oh no! I can see why that changed.
So how they did it was you played Evolutionary Apex, like you do right now, and it sequenced as such that it would, you would play, it would force out Menemivore, and then it would force out a Decimus, and then it would deal 2 damage for each 3 card milled, or for each card milled. So if you play Decimus with Menemivore on the board, or vice versa, it would be 6 damage.
Jeez.
And if you have another Decimus, then that's 4 per each milled card. So that's 3 times 4. 12 damage.
Desi Spikes was already like top. But I managed to do the full clear with the Rebuke, and that is it. They have no more cards to draw, so Skitter got burned out. Always great to see that funny deck go off. Because you can't always get the Memovores or the Apex, or stuff that is good to come out, or ways to not lose the board immediately. Are you ready for game number 2?
I am.
Alright, let's go into Trozz versus Skitter. Best of 3, I'm up 1. In 3, 2, 1. Paste.
You will, of course, be forced to play the same deck again, but Skitter having the chance to swap up decks, which he does, and now we see Vitruvian.
Yep. So Sand Swirl, I guess, slows me down a bit, but I can cheat units out again later. We got the Celebrant here, and then the Golem Metallurgist.
Yeah, so a fairly defensive Golem Metallurgist will enable you to do a Lava Slasher turn 2.
And I do have the option of placing 2/2 drops, which I'll do. Azure Herald in the middle, because it's way too tanky to deal with, and it can snatch the top or threaten the bottom 10 mana.
Fortunately for you, Skitter has Blood Tier and First Wish to boost up
Yep.
and kill your Metallurgist. But refrains from doing so, and that's the Herald.
Oh, yeah. Because my hand is mostly Golem, so this is going to be really nice. I'm going to be happy to have this unit alive.
Curious to see Emerald Rejuvenator here. That's also a card that I included 2 of in my Fault deck for some extra heal.
4 mana, 4/4 with a one-sided heal 4.
Now that they removed the double-sidedness of the healing.
Yeah, it used to be like a terrible gimmicky card that maybe would fit in like healing proc matters decks, but even then they had better cards, so this just didn't see play. Now it's like solid.
And a genuine consideration for mid-range.
Could even Sand Swirl it to get another heal if really needed.
I could.
Yeah, managing to take out their Metallurgist, keeping mine alive.
You get
Oh,
the
Dream
though,
Shaper.
but I'm wondering,
Yeah, really nice replace.
I'm wondering how happy they are about that. They don't really have a particularly strong play. Bouncing your Flasher is an option, but don't think that's going to be very good.
No, just heals it again and lets it attack some more. With
Up
the
here
discount?
on bottom.
Draws a Blood of Air, draws a Ka. These are 2 incredibly strong cards. Not super useful right now, but good later.
I have to check out this list because why would you run Cause? That's not really a card that you play in.
Yeah, that's more of a Xerix card.
Yeah, I have 3 of them, and they're quite nasty. Clearly, they did not test that card properly when they released it, way back in the day.
Or maybe they're like, "Is this fine?" and they just launch a piece of power. It's like, get Vitruvian
This
to
is
the top.
actually a fault deck. There's 2 faults.
Okay, so that's just a 2-piece combo. Once the fault shows up, the Ka turns online, and then I guess
Interestingly, he has 1 Swarm King and 1 EMP, and he chooses to play those instead of 3 faults. Let's see that. Because I'm not a huge fan of when you have like a huge end game win con like Fault or Finality, and then you only play 2 of them. I think you should play 3 of them all the time.
yeah, because if you only have 2 copies of a card, there's some chance you just won't find it. You'll get down to your final 10 cards, and both copies are still in there somehow.
Yeah, and here we see Skitter being forced to resign to bounce your Lava Slasher.
Yeah, and protecting the Sand Swirl. So that's at least 1 proc for Ka. But I'm more than happy to replay Lava Slasher. Because my deck, or my hand has been maxed out pretty much, which is what I like seeing for my 6 mana turn.
Yeah, and it doesn't really seem like he's got much in the way of answering your Apex here, as you will have 2 Grandmaster Cragons.
Yeah. Blood of Air takes care of 1, but the other one is going to take another Force Field plus 7 damage.
Yeah, and the thing is, his hand is going to be empty, so he's not going to have any kind of options really to answer.
Yeah, no,
not
having any replace fodder is going to be a big issue.
And you get Frenzy now as well from Kragon. So you could move beneath Zephyrion, 1 to the right, and then you can Frenzy Sander Vision him.
Yeah, just get a hit on all.
You burn him down to how many? I can't see. 13.
13 cards in deck. Pandora cannot spawn with this positioning, but I decided to back away because I didn't want to be too close to Sif, because there was some chance that cards falling out of his hand would block my cards. So I tried to do more of a defensive space. Kind of got punished for it now, because Pandora doesn't do anything, but I had such a great action bar at the time I cast the spell, and Skitter's action bar is empty. That's it.
Yeah, he's choosing here to. He chose to Blood of Air the MushyMango, and he is able to take out one of the Kraygons. He had the option of taking out both Kraygons, but valued getting rid of the milling instead, which is fine. But
Yeah.
you're now at 9.
Yeah, this is a lot. And then this Celebrant needs to be replaced into a Blood of Air, basically.
Yeah. What's your reasoning here? Do you want to draw more cards, or do you feel like you're starving him out of resources?
I like using it offensively to starve them out of resources. But I realize, of course, now he got my Memovar already killed, so it doesn't do a whole lot. And then here's a Safarian special. Ascension into Equality Constraint, but that is not going to deal with +7/+7. So Skitter just throws in the towel. GG.
It's just a matter of inevitability at this point. Like when you get 1 or 2 grows off, you just can't come back. Like you get 14 attack and 14 health for routine.
Yeah. And there's only 1 EMP and it was probably burned already.
Yeah, let's see. He did not have any light vendors in this deck.
Definitely would have needed one to deal with my craziness that I had cheated out. And with that, I'll be advancing to face Wirox in the next round. Yeah.
For the long run.
Hey, that's the furthest I've ever made it in one of my tournaments, so I'm pretty stoked about that. The lower bracket gave me new life. Well, let's go on to our second series. We have The Face, also known as O_O, also known as Indubitablement. Rocking the Wizard Brome with a single minion, only the 1 EMP, but that doesn't seem to be stopping him. Facing Copiate's Egmar, or replace Kalios featuring a Astral Crusader.
An old special.
Yeah. I actually like it in Kalios most because you can really get it in.
I think I played Copiate in every single tournament so far.
He just shows up to all of them. And then you guys got matched round 1. That's just... Copiate wasn't too happy about that. Well...
Oh, what you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Yeah, with that said, let's go into game number... Oh, whoops, I realized I typed the wrong player in the chat here. Alright, let's go to game number 2 of The Face vs. Copiate in 3, 2, 1, paste. So being in the lower bracket means you're not limited by having to start the series with your main deck. So either the 2 decks that Copiate brought, you can just use in game 1. And then if his Kalios were to take a win, he'd be stuck on it for the next round, but if it loses, he's got the option to switch.
He decides his Kalios deck here.
Yeah.
And he's got parts and pieces of his replace engine going here.
There's no White Widows in this list, though, so these Aether Masters just seem like they're here to find the Astral Crusader, or maybe there's an Inquisitor Kron. Immediately voiped by the Lasting Judgment.
Trozz can drop another Ether Master. Probably should. He should have probably replaced an Inner Focus. Inner Focus is perhaps more better used with cards like Flame Reef, and you're not going to be cleaning up any boards. So getting cycling off of Kin's cards is probably better than getting additional movements, I think, at this point.
Copiate might be considering the artifact suite and wants some ways to ping it off safely.
Yeah, and rushing headlong here into the center of the board seems perhaps a little reckless of Copiate, considering the artifact package that O is running here. Maybe taking a more defensive stance with moving where he wasn't able to attack would be better, because then you're forcing O to equip artifacts and not hit, which is better than just dropping them raw.
Yeah, because the big artifacts self-repair, or rather the Regalia doesn't even take any damage. Okay, going to damage the artifacts and actually destroy it by using both inner focuses and trading the Flame Wreath.
He's probably trading the Ether Master to
Right.
keep. But I think I like the positioning here by Copiate here, because by putting it on Copiate's or by O's lower right, it means if he wants to go up and connect to Kalios, he's no longer in contact with Flame Wreath, so he's forced to create distance. So I think that positioning is really good.
Just gonna slash it down eventually.
I really don't like this play by O when you have the opportunity to kill him, because you can use Martyrdom there. The most dangerous thing in the game is a Flame Wreath that sticks, because he's pushing right now. How much is it? 4 movement, right? So that's 8 damage is putting right here.
Both Flame Wreaths trigger.
Because he can move them around.
Yeah.
And by not killing that Flame Wreath, he moves from a position where he was pretty comfortably ahead to essentially being almost dead.
Just from the one Flame Wreath, wow. So, lessons learned. Warning to everybody watching, take out these Flame Wreaths any chance you get. Because you never know, because their hand just could be full of movement options, which we see was the case. Copiate does have his action bar basically exhausted, but he's almost at the finish line, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think I don't care for this position in particular. I think I would have liked the Flame Wreath to go behind Brome. And I think you should definitely have connected into Brome there with your general to put him to 7. You're so much higher in health, and you really, really want to be aggressive at this point.
Yeah, because if you give Brome 1 extra turn, then suddenly he's Circle of Healing himself back up or something.
Exactly. But he makes the good call in not attacking and keeping his Flame Wreath high enough in health so he can't just straight into it.
EMP is 1 turn too slow here. Decimate doesn't quite do much.
No, he can clean board if he moves 1 up. Decimate kills the lower one, and then he can Tempest and attack. But he puts himself to 7 by doing so.
Yeah, but Blink is going to be off cooldown, and we see an inner focus too. So it seems like that's still a good play, but the follow-up of Zendo is going to be...
Blink will reactivate, right, on Copiate's 6 mana turn wanted.
Yeah.
Now we could Tempest attack here and then just stun 2-3. I think that's probably what we're going to see here. I'm going to see a Martyrdom.
Martyrdom. Okay.
I think I also would have liked stunning the enemy general there. You also see Copiate with a massive pickup hero Bakazori, so I would probably
play it and blink it.
Yeah, I don't care. I really don't like this one. I think it's an improper assessment where who wins the long run. I think Brome wins the long run, and I think Kalios needs to be aggressive. So backing off there, not moving closer and attacking. I think
Yeah, it's kind of suspicious. The Bakazori might as well be placed right in their face.
Yeah. Also, I think I would have used the MDS here to ensure that I would get value of the movement. And I think keeping it close to Kalios is good to deny Decimate.
Yeah. Since there's open deck lists, you definitely can see what spell package to play around.
Yeah. And he does that, which I think is very clever. Also, I like seeing Kron here.
Yeah.
I think Kron is a good card in Kalios. especially when you have the master package.
Kron can force O's to beam shock it, or rather probably use a EMP. Doesn't have much else other than an EMP for silencing. Well, EMP right away. Might as well, because Bakizori was way too much value. This does create a bit of space, because that's a gigantic minion.
Yeah, Copied actually has some pretty decent options here. He could have played another Bakazori to refill his hand, but decides to replace it in favor of the Zendo.
And then now
He
has
will
two
be able to
Zendos.
create recurring value now off of Kron and plays around claim, so he can't claim the Bakazori and the Kron at the same time.
So with the refill and a full hand, it does feel
Now
like
see-
Chrome is coming back a bit.
Now see the beam shock here really pulling weight.
Yeah, really nice beam shock. Now this the general can't escape the EMP, and the provoke me units can't get to block it in time, unless he uses a
No,
blink. But
He could sacrifice his Quran for it, but there is a risk that it just gets martyrdom or circle of life.
yeah, and then if this ruin slave with the provoke got blinked to be a blocker, it could easily be cleared by a tempest.
So in terms of options here for play, Copiet could drop down the Zendo. He could also play the Bakazori and blink it and hope for something.
Yeah, I feel like he would have done that already if he was doing the Bakizori play. He's already moved Kron out. Although Zendo doesn't seem particularly timely, so maybe getting more card draw would be better. If he drops a Bakizori, it's immediately getting hit by this Martyrdom. Or something else, perhaps.
This is also pretty strong positioning here from Copiet, because the Rune Slave, although not directly in contact with the EMP and provoking him, the EMP can't move and hit Kalios without being provoked.
Yeah. So it would require a spell to be burnt or something for that to come in.
He also played around
The claim. But didn't play around the Decimate as a result.
yeah, he didn't play around the Decimate into the Circle of Life. And this is looking pretty bleak here for Copiet. He does find a beefed up Astro Crusader. Or no, it's actually not beefed up.
Yeah, it's been beefed up once as a 9/8,
Yeah, it's one for once.
but it still gets cleaned up pretty easily.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Copiet decided not to be aggressive and not to push his advantage is what wound up costing him the game.
This was such a strong start when the two Flame Wreaths were just dancing around, blowing up the board. Had he just stayed on top of Brom the whole time, could have been game, but fading away, we're seeing what happens.
Yeah, fortunately for Copiet, he manages to find a Jackson position, so he can teleport this EMP out of harm's way.
Yeah. Can set it to the top. There it goes.
And he finds a Astro Crusader.
Might as well drop it, it's
So-
huge.
You don't really have much better to do here. Interesting aggressive trade there from
Yeah,
Copiet.
planning to clear this unit with damage.
Perhaps contemplating positioning, but he can't position around claim where he's at right now, so he better just make the best of it.
These Bakizori is showing up just in time to keep his action bar from going completely empty.
Yeah, and he better make up his mind right now before he times out here.
Yeah. Where to drop it? Oh, okay. Dropping the Flame Wreath instead of the Astral Crusader.
Perhaps he's worried about the Astral Crusader getting removed, but I think he should be worried about the Wreath getting removed as well.
Yeah, because the
So I really
Martyrdom
wanted
is a lot nicer when they target your Crusader on it because you get a full heal versus just a 4 hit point heal.
Yeah, and O has a very easy clear here. He can Martyrdom, the Wreath. You can also use Regalia here, of course.
Yeah.
You have more than one way to clean off this board. And really puts Scorpion here in a gridlock.
Yeah, there's no escape. The Suzumi Bachi cannot come online to deal with this board. 2 provoke minions, EMP's coming in for lethal damage.
Now he did make a
Painters,
slight
actually.
position. He did make a slight positional mistake here, O, where he allowed turn to the painter, get a 3-for-1.
Yeah.
We also see Gutatsu here coming in clutch.
Nice card draw. Could potentially move his general somewhere too.
I think at this point Copiate is out of Pachysaurus, so his recall options are rather low. Decided to get rid of the Astral Crusader, which I think is interesting. I don't think he's getting much better in terms of value than a 4 mana. What is it? 8/9?
8/9. Well, now it's going to be a 1 mana, what, 11/10?
Yeah, if he draws it.
Yeah, that's the trick, and doesn't draw it.
Also decides not to trade it into the 1/2 there, which I think I would have preferred to do, so that you deny your opponent an additional Pando, but maybe that 1 extra damage will count. It will allow you to survive 3 Regalia hits as opposed to just 2. Whereas
Right.
4 is 3.
Maybe he was thinking about that threshold. Even though there is some minion buff, there's the give your minion plus, and if it has a zeal, you get a card draw, but doesn't have that. Goes for the Martyrdom to clean out the painter, and with this Donzai, this Brom is hitting really hard.
Yeah, I'm pinning Copia down with Conscript every single turn.
So a Zendo could be a coin flip if it goes face, or if it just goes for the Zendo, but that's probably the best option.
I think you prefer it to go face almost, because I don't think you want him to just clean it off.
Okay, so then just placing it... Oh, here's a good one. What if it hits the backstab minion instead? Yeah. This is probably about the best that Copia could have done.
He plays into Decimate here, which he only has 1 in his deck, of course. So... But he has seen most of his deck already, and at this point it's very hard for Copiate to make a comeback.
This Brom deck just gets stronger and stronger the later the game gets. Somehow his action bar is always maxed out. And with that, Copiate has faded away. Didn't press the advantage when he got the opening at one point, and Indubital just running with it. Really strong. And only the one Brom deck. He's just confident that this single EMP, no other minion package is doing it, and it's doing it.
Well, it didn't work the first game, but Brom in general is almost a hard counter to Kalios, where you can just remove his on-turn place, and eventually Kalios just runs dry of resources. He was able to keep up the steam for longer than maybe you should be able to do, but he wasn't really able to close out the game.
Well, let's see if you can do any better in game number 2. You ready to jump into that?
Yes.
Let's go in 3, 2, 1, going.
So Copiate decides to swap up his deck and go for Eggmore.
Seems pretty reasonable. Maybe this one will be able to get there. Tectonic Spikes is a pretty nice card against Brom, because he usually doesn't want to draw 3 cards, because he doesn't have 3 blank spaces in his action bar, usually ever.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see here how Kobe reasons, because he got hit by the lasting judgment game one, so he could go for Young Silipar, which counters um, that play, but decides to go for the Avenger. I probably would have made the same play, but had he played the Silipar there, he would have been able to keep his minion around for one turn at least.
Yeah, pretty tough call. It's like you're taking the calculated risk that they don't have it, and then they do have it.
So here Kobiet has the opportunity of making a more defensive play. He can back off to the wall and perhaps play an Omnisphere, but he also could test the middle, but that runs the risk of getting hit by artifacts.
Right. The middle contest looks like you take a step out, you drop 2/2-drop minions, and then you're not really making the benefit of the extra mana, but you're kind of preventing Brom from grabbing a mana himself, which he doesn't really care about. Next turn, he can just equip a Regalia and even a Bracers and go face.
Yeah, Bracers would not be a card that you generally see outside of Gauntlet, so it's interesting to see this late in the tournament. We also see more some zero mana card representation here. Kobiet, of course, not being able to play in zero mana cards himself because Flash was not legal here.
Yep, we banned it. It was one of the highest voted for keeping on the ban list. Okay, so we have a kind of a forward Omnisphere with this Primal Flourish that's not exactly on the back line, but maybe it's gonna be a way to pump up these Silithars. Reliquarian's a pretty interesting one. If cast on a Magmar minion, it gives you a relic that pumps up your entire team whenever you take a slash.
Yeah, it's probably a card that's better with Flash Reincarnation.
Yeah.
But decides to suit up and just neutralize. Of course, had the old design of the tectonic spikes had been in play, he would have been able to clean off his artifact suite here.
Yeah.
But no such luck.
Spikes now harmless against artifacts. Not a very good counter against the double artifact setup that we got. Copia without any Bloodseer Alchemist, just gonna look to drop 2 Silithars and maybe an egg or a Azerite Healer. Okay. Spikes is pretty nice here because we can see the one minion being burned and a claim going with it.
Yeah, claim in the EMP. This means that Copia knows that for the rest of the game, O is not going to have any EMPs, and he knows the risk of finding a claim is going to be lower, sorry. And he knows that once the first's been played, it's even worse of a chance. But O is going to ignore that and just going to go on the offensive. And it will also stun.
So there's no escape, can't wall this Brom out with minions.
I was getting out-tempoed by the deck with only one minion.
Yeah. And the Huntress is really good with these grow tiles, but there's no way to really connect them.
He could do a data chain here where he moves the Silipar on top of Brome, and then he plays, say, Moloch Huntress and a Herald on tile. He probably needs to play the Herald this turn, unless he dies.
Yeah. And then the Huntress could go on the tile, and then an egg can come out too.
We'll see how he chooses to spend his turn. But this Sunbloom of O has a chance of being quite vicious.
Yeah. All these grow tiles can just be shut down.
Decides to just play another Omnisphere, so now he's got 2 grow tiles.
Can't both be hit by Sunbloom, so seems pretty nice. And it walls out the mana.
Right now, for O, he's in a bit of a hard spot, because if he keeps on going face, he will have the board run away from him. But
yeah.
he
Next
will
turn.
have to do some maintenance job here with trying to remove some stuff.
Yeah, Sunbloom probably going to be hit on the grow tile, but the spacing is so nice that the rebirth can't also be turned off. And with this many minions to deal with, this artifact suite is falling off immediately. Gives himself a strong provoker to keep his artifacts intact. Probably going to attack for 9, but the positioning to back off might be better.
I think if he attacks for 9, he loses the game. So I
Right.
think I would have attacked the Omnisphere because the board is running away from me at that point.
Yeah, good point. Go for the
And
base
you
minion.
can also see Copiate has the Reliquarian here.
Reliquarian really good to cast on an Omniseer. And 7 mana turn is now.
He could do that. The only problem is he's not going to be able to clean off the artifacts.
Check out this Pado. Maybe that can introduce some chaos to the board.
I think Mencantor here might be a good play. Just dent the artifact once and allow the Solthars to finish off the job, and then you can have the Omniseer go into the remnants of the 3/6. And it will even allow you to play an egg. So Kobiet's finding a lot more luck here when he has a more favorable matchup for game 2.
Yeah, not running out of steam. Cancer Warby is pretty nice. Gets through the Regalia, doesn't take lethal damage. So these Silthars can finish off the artifact suite.
And the Silthar will have to attack into 9, attack Brome, but it will turn into an egg.
Nice board to have a Tempest in hand.
Yeah, the Tempest now has a, what is it, 5/1?
5 for 1. Well, 4 for
Kobiet
1.
is hesitating whether to play his egg.
Yeah.
Perhaps anticipating that the Tempest might come.
It's kind of a tough choice because you can see the 2 clock above it, which indicates it will be still on cooldown for the next turn if used now. So maybe just keeping it is the play. Nope. Time for an egg.
It's a fine play. I mean, you have Reliquarian in hand, so you want to be able to have something.
Yeah, because Brome would be super dead at that point. Here's an awkward choice. Draw 2 cards with your Eternity Oath.
Yeah, you didn't have a guarantee that you would find something to play, so you were risking milling 2 cards there.
Yeah. Had at least the Beam Shock to throw down, which is kind of annoying because now Diagonal Step Back is not an option. But Huntress in the back, pretty nice with a Grimrock here. And then spacing out to play around the Claim and threaten the mana.
Yeah, the Claim, of course, which he only has 2
Only
of,
2, yeah.
Have any in hand. He can, but he finds that.
Yep. Decimate for 1, Lasting Judgment for the other.
It was a misclicked with the Claim because it didn't kill the Bloodshot Outpost. And right now,
I guess Pado coming down as biggest dude.
yeah, he doesn't have. He did replace already, but maybe Reliquarian was the replace there.
Yeah. Well, Reliquarian really needs you to have a board.
He doesn't really have a particularly strong play here for the turn. But just dropping Pado, hoping things will turn out well, is an alright play.
Oh, roll the dice. They're not going that far.
Pado is so undersized. It looks like some kind of Jiminy Cricket character.
It's like one of those pandos, the baby pandas, except it's in a power suit. That's how I'm looking at it.
Or it's a... Rome deck like this, there's no problem cleaning off a 12/6 like that.
Yep. Probably Circle of Life plus Tempest.
Interesting to see him replace the Lancing Judgment, because that gave him a clear with the Circle of Life. But as we can see, Copiat has all the cards you need right now. O has all the cards you need. He has Sunbloom for Dispel, Oath for removal, Oath for draw, and then the Claim and Martyrdom for.
Yeah. Really nice final draw here, too. Hand quality is just top notch. Whereas O kind of has bits and pieces of a plan that, or rather, yeah, we'll see if Copiat can get through with his Silhouette Tracer to run away. I guess that's the best play, because this Dragonlark is too fragile, and the Relic Whaler really needs something to eat.
Yeah, you can attack into the 1/2 and then just Tracer away, and then maybe place a defensive Dragonlark.
Dragonlarch is incredible if you can have it sit on a Primal Flourish for a bit. It's a build your own dragon kind of card, so we're going to see a bit of that.
Interesting that he actually chooses to do that, though. I think maybe it would have been better to place a Ripper Egg on the tile. But maybe he's diversifying his threats a little bit, so O has the opportunity of cleaning up the Dragonlark, but that leaves the egg. Maybe he's valuing the egg more than the Dragonlark, so he's kind of forcing him to clean up the egg or a boosted Dragonlark.
Sometimes you can use a claim to counter grow tiles by transforming them into healing circles. Gonna cast a Trinity Oath instead to refill his options. Might just silence.
Would that be his third Trinity Oath of the game? I think so. Only second, I think. He's only 16 cards.
Third one is still in hand.
He can Sunbloom both of them?
Sunbloom the Mana Tile and the Dragonlark?
And he can Sunbloom the 2/1 and the... Yeah, exactly. And then the egg.
And then the egg, yeah. Does 5 damage to the egg. Absolutely scrambling it.
Rather curious play to see. Copiat knows that O doesn't have an EMP left, so he can space out accordingly. And he also knows that one claim has been burned and then one has been used, so it's only one left in the deck.
Might fade the Dragonlark back to the other Primal Flourish and drop a Huntress on the forward one.
I think Yeah, he decides to play around Claim here, just in case. Or he doesn't, it seems, hoping that O doesn't have it.
O is going to be really happy he didn't cast a Claim last turn. Because this turn, it is such a buster.
Yeah, it's really hard to come back from this, unless this last card spikes here for Copiat.
Right. That's a really good replays. So, can just be swapping cards to hopefully find a copy of Spikes, because Spikes is going to mess up Brome a bit, because he doesn't want to draw anymore.
Yeah, I think he should. I think maybe he's contemplating flying away with a 4/3 here to fly it out of claim range. I think that's what he should do. He should probably fly it
top right.
Yeah, that's a good positioning.
Yeah, because then this Primal Flourish can still be a value, and the Huntress would have to be silenced because it's pretty bonkers.
Yeah, there's also some positioning decisions to be made here with the 2/6. He decides not to block off Brome, but he could have placed it behind Brome so the Brome couldn't run away to the left. And now he doesn't give Copiat the best, or doesn't give O the best claim, but he has Sunbloom to finish off the turn. But doesn't use it and lets the 4/3 stick, which
doesn't
I'm not
even
sure
stun
if I
it.
agree with.
Just not concerned about it at all.
Yeah,
could give Copiat a chance to do something. Like it could hit the Silhouette Tracer to scratch it, and then Mechanter finishes it off. Well, if you needed to clear that is. Silhouette Tracer being as tanky as it is, it's a really good one to move onto the Primal Flourish. Start getting some stats on it. Yeah, Dragonlark probably doesn't want to go into it.
Yeah, and I think if I copy it here, it'll be interesting in trying to find the spikes as quickly as I possibly can.
Hasn't been a replace yet. Still an option, but wants to cast the Mccanter.
Yeah, and he's in no way positioned to trade face. He's way too low.
Yeah, so the egg might even be used as a wall.
Hmm.
Okay, playing it a little more defensively.
The question remains what to do with a 4-3. 4-3 will hide in the top left corner.
Multiple sunblooms, pretty nasty.
Seems like O will make another favorite play of his where he afterblazes his.
This is a signature move.
He has the lasting judgment to kill off the Mccanter, which is very wise considering the risk of Reliquarian.
Right.
He seems to leave the 2/6 behind, but there is an argument for dispelling the tile. But he will dispel the Dragon Lark instead. This will give Copy the egg as well. The way I think this works is if he attacks and survives now, with Oropsisaur on board, it will grow.
Yeah. Really nice card to draw. It's kind of unfortunate. It's 1 mana too much to cast both the Reliquarian and the Oropsisaur. But having a gigantic Silhouette Tracer seems pretty nice.
Having a gigantic Ripper would seem even nicer. Because then you would be able to give it additional stats and celerity.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how it works. Now that's a 6/7, but it chooses to play into claim, unfortunately. But has he spent 2 claims? I think so, right?
Well, 1 got burned and 2 got saved.
Yeah, so he no more claim. So he's playing around Decimate, which he does very well.
Yeah, just in time. So Silence shuts off the last grow tile, and the Silhouette Tracer is back to being small. And probably gonna close out the turn with a Regalia. Copia's got 2 Rippers to work with. Rippers get pretty nuts if your Reliquarian can pump them up.
Yeah, he doesn't really have the minion to support that just yet.
Yeah.
He's in a bit of an awkward spot here where there's not a strong replace. Grimrock is a good card, and so is Reliquarian, but I think I will probably gravitate towards replacing the Grimrock here, seeing if I can find something better.
Or replace the Reliquarian and hope you find another Huntress, and then cast that and Grimrock. I don't think this Reliquarian has ever been replaced, and it's been hanging out since like turn 1. It's looking for an opening.
Yeah, it's vibing.
Grimrock probably going to be placed somewhere out of reach of Brome, so it can have at least a turn. Can't be out of reach of both generals though, because this Decimate is just going to clear it. Oh. Oh, the unfortunate placement. Best place for Grimrock might have been down and right of Fragnora.
He was also playing around Somlum, I think.
Right, because those just keep dropping.
But even if he decimates, he only kills.
Yeah, it needs the Tempest to finish it up. Pretty scrappy game. Players are both low on cards now. but Copia definitely low on hit points. And without another Grow minion to support this Aproposaur, it looks like the Sworn Avenger is going to be kind of an awkward play. Unfortunately, can't also come down with Reliquarian. So Copiate seems kind of stuck.
And a strong position here from O means that he can only really back off one thing into the top right corner, which would be either himself to avoid dying, or the Oropsisaur.
Yeah, probably puts himself there and the Aproposaur at the bottom right, and accepts that it gets slashed. The Sworn Avenger might actually be better as replace fodder rather than it being played, so Copiate might look to just full pass.
Yeah, but there's a matter of how to position,
Yeah.
because you can't keep yourself and the Oropsisaur from avoiding getting attacked.
So this placement makes the egg safe. Well, it did. Now this 1-2 can trade with it.
Yeah, he decides to make the trade. I'm wondering if Copiate believed that the Oropsisaur would grow there.
Yeah, keyword on this card, another.
Or maybe he's intending to use the Reliquarian right now?
Looks like.
Yep.
So a
But
+4 attack and 4 grow on attack. But plays okay. Going in. But as we can see, there is a Donzai to be thrown on.
Yeah,
Which
and
closes it out.
O defies the odds and wins 2 straight. And sends Copiate packing.
Thanks for playing Copiate, but congratulations to O's for advancing to the next round, where O's will be fighting Agent Cypher 19, who is looking for his 4th third place victory, or maybe better. But it is funny that AC 19, the last 3 tournaments, he's just gotten 3rd every time. And
No,
that,
didn't I get third? Didn't I get third last tournament? I got eliminated in the semis, I think.
yeah, there'd
What was
be
that?
2 players getting 3rd, because the 4th player is also basically 3rd,
Ah, I see.
depending on the bracket. And those are all the games that we've got for today, because we can see the bottom, it's going to be me versus Wirox, and Indubitablement versus AC19. Once those games have been played, we will do a nice cast so we can see the victor of those 2 go at it. And then by that point, the top bracket will have to be decided. So still got like another 2 weeks or so. It depends how fast these rounds go, because if we just get like one game that has to be cast, we're probably just going to flick it live.
Yeah, me and Leftover might play this week, so maybe we can just include it with the Wirox versus you and the Cypher versus O games.
Yeah. And you may have noticed that we don't have cool screens that show up all the deck lists. I didn't put those together so far. I've been focusing on doing a new player video. That's coming along pretty nicely. The new player primer is going to show off like some basics of the game and some good turn 1 plays and some stuff to just know. But I want it to be really good, so I'm taking my time with it. But for the later rounds, when there's fewer players in the tournament, it'll be a little easier for me to also put together these slides of decks. So I think in rounds to come, we'll at least have some deck lists so we can chat about what these guys are rocking and how they're getting here. Yeah. And with that, we are out of here. Thanks again, stoicrooster, for coming to CoCast.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a lot of fun, and see y'all next time.